and welcome. I am Steve Clemons, editor-at-large of The Hill. Thank you for joining us on day one of the virtual Democratic National Convention. Our daily event series kicked off this morning with a focus on the big questions surrounding the campaign and the battle for the White House. This afternoon, we're taking a break from campaign conversations to focus on an issue that touches each one of us: energy access and reliability. Accessible, affordable, and reliable energy powers homes, businesses, and the economy. And today, in response to the coronavirus pandemic, people have retreated indoors for safety, and the demand for and consumption of household energy has increased. As a global leader in energy production, the United States has access to a number of sources that are helping to meet this growing need. Yet, according to the Energy Information Administration, 1 in 3 American households today faces energy insecurity from not being able to pay their bills to adequately heating or cooling their homes. It's remarkable. The situation is more desperate for communities of color. Across the world, energy poverty is even more widespread. As we look to the future, what energy sources can be relied upon to close the gap nationally and also globally? This is not just an American problem. What policies can support efforts to make energy access easy, affordable, and sustainable? This afternoon, we're going to hear from policymakers, energy experts, and civil rights advocates to explore what can be done to ensure reliable, affordable access to energy while limiting the impact on the environment. I'd like to thank the American Petroleum Institute for sponsoring today's event. Before we get underway, a few housekeeping notes. You can tweet us at @TheHillEvents. Let me get that right, @TheHillEvents, using the hashtag #TheHillEnergy. We are broadcasting live. As with any live stream, you could experience occasional trouble with the video. Refreshing the page should, in most cases, fix the problem. I don't believe that, but you can try it. With that, let's dive right in. My first guest, Texas Congressman Vicente González, sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, where energy and the environment are a key area of focus for him. He's also chairman of the Congressional Oil and Gas Caucus and a member of the Renewable Energy Caucus in the House. I have just started following him on Twitter. I've just read like 4 dozen of his tweets on all sorts of things, and I want to start there. Congressman, great to see you, and thanks for joining us. I'm sorry I'm not interviewing you in Milwaukee today. I hope you're somewhere safe and cool, but I am happy that we're here online. But I want to start with your Twitter feed, because in your Twitter feed, you raise issues about some of the great fragilities in the country, about the impact of hurricanes on farming, about Americans dying every 80 seconds from COVID, about a number of these things. I really found it a useful primer on some of the instabilities and challenges today. And part of what we're discussing today is energy provision and the fragility or reliability of that. So as you look at it and you look at the energy scene today, what are the things that most concern you?
Well, clearly, I'm concerned about more domestic production and being able to keep our people working and our economy doing well, and that we could keep not only sustain ourselves in terms of energy, but also helping our friends and neighbors around the world. As you know, we are now supplying LNG, Texas LNG, to Eastern Europe and to many countries who are relying on Russia. Prior to that,
I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to tell our audiences, LNG is liquefied natural gas, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's natural gas. It's produced in shells in Texas and other places around the country, which we use domestically. Now we're exporters instead of importers, and we're selling to Europe and around the world, Asia, South America. We're sending gas. We're piping gas into Mexico. We're working on our second gas line right now, and this gas has raised standards of living in Latin America. We're sending Texas gas to the city of Monterrey. It's a northern industrial city in Mexico, where it actually gets converted to electricity and sent down to Guatemala. And Guatemala went from about 50% electrified to almost 100% because of this process. This same vendor is now trying to get this to the rest of Central America. So it clearly raises the standard of living. It helps our friends and neighbors around the world. It helps economies. It helps. It lifts people out of poverty. And here domestically, I mean, depending on what study you listen to, the average household savings is between $2,500 and $3,000 a year. That is a huge savings for low-income families that struggle to make ends meet on a monthly basis. And that's something very easily to not really consider when we're talking about, transferring all our energy to renewables, which I'm all for. It's just a process. It's not either or. It's a process to transfer energy completely in our country and worldwide to 100% renewables. So we need to have very serious conversations with both industry and policymakers and find out what's reasonable and what's right and what is the right thing for us at this particular point in time in history, coming out of COVID, coming out of the economy that we have now, and how we can uplift the American economy and sustain it moving forward and continue to support our friends around the world and our allies. Many times we miss how traditional energy has a national security component, and we use energy to help our friends and protect our allies from enemies. And I was in Poland about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, and they had just received their first shipment of Texas natural gas into one of the terminals that they had just built. And there's going to be pipelines going through Eastern Europe. I think more terminals are coming. And I think that's just going to expand opportunities for the United States to have more influence in that part of the world.
I mean, to your point, I remember after the Fukushima earthquake, Japan, which is a core ally of the United States, is one of the largest LNG importers in the world, and there have been a lot of barriers on exporting LNG there. But on the broad side, one of the things in just preparing for today's forum, and I just didn't know it. I didn't know that there was so much energy access and reliability instability inside the United States, that 1/3 of homes are sort of on the edge of that. Is your work in Congress, are your colleagues? I have to admit, I was not literate about that. Are your colleagues literate about the importance of stabilizing that for Americans?
Well, I think that we always need to continue to educate policymakers of the importance of traditional energy and how we will eventually become a complete renewable energy state with time. It's just a process, and we need to be smart and thoughtful of how we do it, and that it's in the best interest of our country, of our economy, and of our allies around the world as we make this change.
What do you see as some of the trade-offs now as we talk about oil and gas and fossils and renewable and nuclear in the mix? I had the privilege years ago of working for Senator Jeff Bingaman of New Mexico. And so New Mexico, pretty close to Texas. And he used to call, I need it all. We need it all. We have oil and gas. We have other dimensions, and we need to get, the equities right and kind of create trends. But what Jeff used to say, or the senator, I should say, what the senator used to say is we really don't have a coherent energy policy or strategy in the country. Too many divergent pieces. In the caucus that you help run, have you been able to bring together something that looks like more of at least a proposed national energy strategy?
Well, what we always like to say, it's not either or. It's as the senator said, it's a piecemeal of all different sorts of energies as we move into a cleaner, fully renewable energy economy, which is down the road. And another thing that I like to mention is you will see traditional energy corporations leading the way as we move into those venues. You see that a lot of the investment is coming from traditional energy to renewable energy. So I think that we're going to be dealing with the same corporations that have been in traditional energy as we move into other types of energy around the world. So it's not an either or. I think we all need to hold hands and walk this walk together. And I feel fully confident that we will do it, that we'll be able to do it under a Biden administration. I think he clearly understands, especially under the conditions that we're living today, the importance of traditional energy, the importance of being exporters instead of importers. I think Vice President Biden was in office during periods when our country went through a very difficult time because of lack of energy and because we were getting taken advantage of by countries around the world. And we're no longer in that exact situation. We're in a much better place because of shale oil. And when we talk about reducing our carbon footprint, well, natural gas has done just that for the United States of America. We have reduced our carbon footprint because of the use of natural gas. And if you compare us to Germany, for example, who maybe has invested more than us per capita in solar and wind and other types of renewables, they still haven't made much of a change on their carbon footprint because they continue to burn so much coal. And and in that respect, I think we're on the right track. I think there's a lot of benefit to having a wide range of energy sources in our country. And like I said, a lot of our business that we do around the world relies on the energy that we sell our friends, such as Japan, such as Mexico. So they keep those factories spinning, so the trade works, so things, commerce continues to flow. And we're going to even more impoverished countries in Central and South America that just a few years ago didn't have electricity. Right now, they're electrified countries. Even in the poorest communities, indigenous communities up in the mountains, they all have electricity. And a lot of this is due to natural gas coming from Texas, which I'm very proud of. We pipe it down into Mexico. It gets converted into electricity and sent through power lines into Central America. That it continues to expand. We're working on our second line. And then we got to look at things I think recently, I think it was like last year, there was a photo that was sent to me of a Russian LNG vessel plugged in at the port of Boston selling Russian natural gas to American citizens. I find that so shameful. And I thought that should have been a front page story across the country that because we did not have access to get our gas into that region. And they were short of what they needed to keep warm during the winter months, that they had to resort to buying from our not so good friends, Russia. And these are when we have these conversations on energy, they're complicated conversations because there's a lot of facets to it. It's not just what some activists believe that needs to be done overnight. There's a wide range. It's not black or white. There's a wide range of colors as we negotiate through this very complex issue that we're dealing with in America right now, and certainly with the Biden administration, the conversation will, I think, be much more critical.
Well, I'm going to make a deal with you. The next time you have something like that, you want to get a front page or whatever, and because I hadn't heard about that, you just call me, okay, and I'll work on the Hill on that. So.
I have a photo of it.
Yeah, the other side of it is I am always interested in, what did America becoming the superpower? So it's hard for people to remember, but it wasn't so long ago when we were a net energy importer. And because of fracking, because of natural gas, because of LNG production, because a lot of things, America, and also renewables. I mean, let's just a diversified energy portfolio. America became, the largest energy exporter in the world. And you've raised many times the possibilities with protecting and helping allies and the kind of side. And I'm just wondering, do you think we make enough of that? That are we managing the foreign policy leverage that we have with that in the right way? Because I know Russia is, but I'm not sure we are.
I think we could do much more. And I think that's the idea, is to do much more, especially in places around the world that rely on Russia. And certainly their neighbors are our allies in Eastern Europe that are constantly being threatened and held hostage by Russian energy. This gives them another option. And as they have more ample pipelines on Eastern Europe and more terminals are built, I think those opportunities will continue to grow.
Are there things you think Congress needs to do to shift the priorities of how it approaches the energy sector? What is it getting right? What is it getting wrong?
Well, I think we should give tax incentives as people improve technology, as people start conducting business in cleaner ways in terms of traditional energy. As you know, technology has changed dramatically in the last 20 years, in the last 10 years, in the last 5 years, in the way fracking is done. And I think we need to continue to reward folks. I think we need to continue to invest in technology that captures carbon. I think that's the wave of the future. And we should invest in those technologies and reward folks who use it. Other things that we're working on, Congressman Lance Gooden and I are working on tax incentives to reshore the rare earth and critical mineral supply chains that's used for cell phones, solar panels, and a lot of technology. Right now, we're purchasing 80% of that from China. We need to bring that back to the United States of America.
You know, I've had before conversations with Senator from your state, John Cornyn, from West Virginia, Joe Manchin. You know, these are both coal states, oil states, and in the process kind of asking them about where they think their folks can go. And I think both of them seem, similar in some ways to the conversation you had, a mix of everything. But when you talk to West Virginia and you sort of look at the dependency in to some degree the coal sector there, what's the social contract got to be to help economies that have been so heavily part of one industry to begin shifting? Because that seems to me to be a part of the conversation that gets lost. How do we manage those transitions?
That's a great question, and that's something we need to look at. We need to look at the region. We need to help them retool into other industries as that source of energy diminishes, or as that resource is used less and less. They're in a peculiar situation because of coal, that region is, and we need to figure out how we can help them, how we can help them transfer their resources into other sectors of our economy, and think of ideas like that, more creative ideas. Bring industry into that region, bring manufacturing, bring other high-paying jobs into that area. It's not something that we could just pull the plug on. And we saw that, and I hate to use this as a metaphor, but we saw that when we passed our first North American Free Trade Agreement, that we saw a lot of jobs get lost in the Rust Belt in certain areas around the country, and we promised that we would retool them into other sectors of the industry, and we never really did, and those people were hurting 20 years later, and we need to make sure that does not happen in areas like West Virginia or Kentucky or other places around the country. But these are conversations that need to be had, and we need to have a long-term, a short-term, and a mid-term plan to achieve that and assure that everybody's on board, and assure folks that are in that situation that we're going to stand behind them, that we're going to be there for them, and we're going to assure that they do well in the process as we move into new times in history.
And Congressman, just as we wrap up here, I just want to get one better understanding of something, because I think it's so important, and you've raised it. When you look at this, many Americans that either are having problems in this time paying their energy bills, or their access is wobbly, to put a nice spin on it. I know so much of this is happening at the state and local level, and so much of it has to deal with energy infrastructure before you even get the cost. I've talked to Tom Fanning, who's the CEO of Southern Company, who's got a lot of constantly talking about how do you provide for a part of the economy that's just lower socioeconomic status. You've got to basically hold everybody in. What are the right partnerships that we're missing today to make sure that Americans across the board have a more stable supply of reliable energy? Because I'm surprised we're talking about it, but I know it's a big issue.
Well, there's some programs that we've been working on in Congress to provide energy for low-income Americans in areas that are hurting, to be able to subsidize energy for them, electricity or natural gas for places like that. There are already some programs here at the state level. I think we need to have ideas like that at the federal level, and be able to help people nationally to get them through difficult times. Another issue that we don't ever talk about enough is the local tax base that traditional energy provides for places. I have one of the poorest school districts in my district. We have these. It's an amazing school. These kids are going to Ivy League universities when they graduate. They're getting one of the top education in the region, and it's because of the economic resources provided from traditional energy. And we can never forget the jobs, the tax base that's provided locally, state, and at the federal level. I mean, there has been so much benefit to us being producers of energy in Texas and across the country. And I think we can never ignore those benefits as we move forward.
Are you watching the convention tonight?
I will be.
I know everyone's saying Michelle Obama is the person they most want to hear. Who's your second?
Well, the star for the
Yeah.
day. I don't know. I thought is Bill Clinton coming out today? I know. I thought he's always fun to watch, right?
There you go. Well, I just want to get a chance. I'm asking everybody I'm talking to, give me your number one. Everyone's saying Michelle Obama. I said, okay, forget the number one.
Well,
Who's the number two?
I like Michelle. I like Obama. I like Bill Clinton. I think we have a lot of great people that are going to be coming up on the convention.
Well, Congressman Vicente González, thank you. This was a lot of fun. I hope we get another chance to talk to you in the not too distant future. Really appreciate hearing a deep dive into LNG and some of what's happening in the energy picture broadly. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Hope to do it again with you. Take care.